Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome, everyone, regardless of where you're joining us from. I'm Alex Baker. I'm the principal at Nordic Retail Hub, and very excited to once again be able to speak to these smart individuals that I had the chance to join in a session from Shop Talk earlier this summer. Uh, Honestly, it was a very popular session due to the topic and due to the fast development that AI is now forcing companies to look into. And we're going to have a session today that is about 45 minutes, and you're going to hear from our four sessions. Before I introduce the session and the topic and how we're going to proceed, I'd like to go through some house rules. So basically, we have a Q&A, and I will ask you guys to use the Q&A to submit questions for any of our speakers. And we also have a poll, which enables you to select which one of the service provider you would be interested in hearing from, receiving some more information, or just simply asking questions. This makes it also easier for you not to be bombarded with information from all of them, rather than select the one you're interested in, and then they will be happy to provide you some more information and reach out. With that said, I would like to start the session. And, traditional marketing has been a lot about renting audiences and optimizing for search engines. And that is going through a transformation at the moment with the AI-driven discovery. And regardless if you're a retailer or a brand or just a leader within any organization, you are becoming more aware that this is not solely tech. It's not just about a tech upgrade, but this is a direct challenge to your discoverability, to your team structures, and in the end, and perhaps the most important, to your margins. So this session, I believe why it was so popular last time, is because it's skipping the hype, and we're focusing entirely about operational strategy. We're focusing about answering those questions you have when it comes to how to allocate your budget, how to work to make your product data machine ready, and then also how you can work with building your community moats so the algorithms can't replace it. So you're going to hear from four amazing speakers, and I'm going to present them by inviting the first one up now. With that pleasure, I would like to welcome up Paul Archer to share with us a bit more about Duel. Paul, are you ready?
I am indeed. Can you hear me and can you see my presentation? All right, cool.
Yes,
Good to
we
go.
can.
Hello, folks. My name is Paul Archer. I am founder and CEO of Duel. We're a brand advocacy platform. We work with large retail brands to help them build out the communities of advocates and creators and brand ambassadors and affiliates that allow them to grow through social commerce and through advocacy in the love of what they do. And so I'm going to sort of go through the sort of 5 ways that we're seeing that like growth as a whole, because that's what we want to do. Everyone wants to growth, has changed over the past year or so in this sort of AI era. And they're all similarly quite connected when we sort of think about it from a marketing perspective and from a brand and retail side of things. Like I think the first thing to kick off is this concept of user-generated content is now what's powering the vast majority of people's attention. And people spend more than twice as much time on creator-led platforms like your TikTok, your YouTube, your Instagram, as they do on every other media channel combined, which means that actually it's democratized content and consumption and the way that our attention lies. It used to be very much centralized of Rupert Murdoch and co controlling what we would think, but now actually we have this amazing sort of diversity of thought that comes through, and actually that's changed everything about brands grow. And for the best, for the better, for the worse, we see these incredible new brands that are exploding and some brands that are struggling, but very much is connected to this theme. The second major part of how AI is driving this is that search engines that used to be very much about SEO have actually moved towards being an answer engine. It's not so much about finding the authority of the right place to go and find an answer for myself. I'm searching in an LLM and I'm looking for an answer. The LLM is going out and it's canvassing the internet to find out other people's opinions to help me make a decision about a product I want to buy. And what's really interesting about that is it's not going to the brand's websites to do that. It's not going on the owned content for the brand that much, apart from some of the basic FAQ stuff. Where it's looking for is real humans' opinions. It's looking for user-generated content. It's looking for reviews. It's looking for posts. It's looking to Reddit. All of these things are informing the answers that we're getting, and it's allowing the answer engines to go straight to a point. Is that you should buy product X, and this is what's driving 25% of revenue these days. Um, the final piece is actually from the social side of things is like purchase consideration, not just the discovery stage, the consideration stage is now also purely on the social, not purely, largely on the social zone. With Gen Z now using TikTok as its number one search engine. Like, why would you search in TikTok for a product? Well, it's so you can find real people talking about it. You're looking for the authentic person who's going to say really what the product is like, not the influencer that was paid to shill it, not what the brand has to say about themselves in the ads, but real people giving real thoughts and opinions on the product and how it works and how it looks and how it can work for you. And who are normal people, normal shapes and sizes and just like us, because this is what we're looking for when we're actually trying to make proper purchasing decisions. And then the really interesting piece is that the AI algorithm is also changing what we see. We kind of think that we're in control of what we choose to see on social media, but actually 90% of what we see is coming from people for what's called non-follower views. So 90% of what we see when we're scrolling through Reels or through TikTok is actually people we haven't chosen to follow. It's what the algorithm has decided that we might like. And God, that algorithm is really good at knowing what we might like. It often knows more than we do like. And so we've actually taken this data from the Duel platform across millions of advocates and social posts. And on the left-hand side, there was a linear track. The content you saw, the number of followers you had was proportionate to the number of people that saw your post. But what's really interesting is now that's almost exactly non-correlatory. So the number of followers you have is got almost nothing to do with how many people will see your post, which means that having 1 million followers and having 1,000 followers, you are just as likely to be seen by 1 million people, which is then changing almost everything that brands know about the way that they want to work with creators. We've built up a whole industry of influencer marketing over the past 5, 10 years, and it's built on your followers. You have micros, macros, nanos deciding how big you are based on your followers. You have your pricing and your campaigns and your budgeting based on your followers. I have this many followers, therefore I cost this much. But that now is irrelevant because the algorithm decides what we see, not what we choose to follow. So it means that everything's been turned on its head, which is making it really tricky for brands. And then to compound on this is this AI is killing that role of influencer managers anyway. A lot of the jobs that they used to do are now being automated out. And so it really is left like a big question for brand is like, how can we grow in 2026 and beyond? And a lot of this, it comes down to building the systems that drive the growth. It's not about campaigns anymore, the creativity. It's about systemizing the advocacy, systemizing the conversation, systemizing the social commerce that comes from it. Because you've got to have a lot of people talking about you. You're not going to get it with just one person because they may fly, they may not because of what's going on. And this is the first principle of growth. Advocacy is word of mouth, and it always starts with this concept of creating a remarkable experience so that people feel compelled to remark upon it. It's the reason why almost everybody buys almost everything. Yet we spend most of our time in our budgets on the peripheries, on the secondary things that are about actually identifying those things there. But actually, what we need to do is figure out how do we get more people talking about us. And that's very much something which we obsess about here at Duel. We studied over 2,000 different brands, and we across a 50-point scale to understand what it was that they had about how systemized they were with this advocacy maturity scale. And what we found is the most systemized you were, the more you had systems in place, the more mature you were around that, the faster you grow. And actually that correlated almost exactly with your growth on there. So being someone who's figured this out, building communities, building systems, building repeatable models that happen again and again and again is the secret to growth this year. Which means that a lot of it now has to come down to how do I scale this? How do I bake this in? A lot of brands will have up to 15 different tools, and you don't need that anymore. And you don't also need the 15 different platforms, and you have to have a strategy for every single one. It's like, okay, cool. We've got TikTok, we've got Snapchat, we've got Instagram, we're going to do YouTube, right? We've got YouTube Shorts right now. It's incredibly overwhelming. But actually, when you look at it, you realize that it's the same individuals are creating content across those. And instead, if you were to build a single strategy instead of multiple strategies that connected your ecosystem of people, of humans, of individuals that are around your brand, the community that is your brand, you can actually build a system that can drive growth. And it really starts with focusing on an individual. So if you can deeply know a person that works with you, your customer, you know what they spend, but also you can understand what their social profiles are, what they do, what they post. You can build up a P&L, which means you can get more products in their hands, which means you can get them to do more reviews, you can get them to do more posts and create more content. And this flywheel starts to spin faster and faster. But it starts with the human at the front of it. It doesn't start with a strategy for a platform. It doesn't start with a tool that does it. It starts with a relationship that you've got with the person. And almost every big brand is building something similar here. You'll see some of the ones on the right there and some of the ones on the left that we work with Power. We're the market leader in the enterprise for building out these advocacy communities and helping them do it at massive scale. Because basically, what Duel does is it's a platform that allows you to unlock that community, that ecosystem at scale. It's a portal that is completely white label for brands that create a gamified experience for advocates and creators and brand ambassadors so that a brand can build this community, can build a program that can drive growth and a back-end console for managing it at massive scale. So we would habitually work with brands with tens of thousands of brand ambassadors, managing all the different segments that they do it. And the only reason we can do this is because of the AI that is baked into the platform from the get-go, which means that you can automate and manage that kind of level of scale. Our ambition is that we're going to have every one of a brand's advocates and tracking all of the different activities that they do, all on one platform. And so we're building this out currently, and we do it for some incredibly big brands, largely with the creators and the brand ambassador space for it. But we're also doing a number of employees and store associate programs, as well as industry experts and professionals, hairdressers, makeups, that kind of thing. But
Thank you so yeah. Thank you so
and
much,
then
Paul. We're
that's
gonna have
us.
yeah. Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much for that, Paul. A lot of very interesting things. Let's proceed with Thomas McKenna and hear more from you and which part of the marketing funnel that you are addressing from Ocula. Welcome,
Amazing.
Thomas.
Perfect. Thanks, Alex. Hopefully you can all see my screen. Loads of content to get through and only a 5-minute window. So I am going to go quickly. If you'd like a follow-up, we'll have a calendar link at the end so you can do that. This is unashamedly for brands and retailers who have large product catalogs. How do you win in AI search? You've got the biggest challenges because of the breadth of your SKU portfolio, but also therefore the biggest opportunity if we can activate that long tail in particular. So with that, this is bigger than the dawn of internet retailing. So internet retailing disrupted over time the offline store environment. It changed supply chains, it changed buying habits, etc. This is bigger and moving faster than that original shift 20, 25 years ago. Stat from Bain recently was by 2030, 20% of e-commerce in the US being conducted by agents. Who knows if we're going to end up there or not? Directionally, everyone's aligned that this is huge. And there's going to be winners and losers, just like there was winners and losers within internet retailing. So how do you become a winner? This is my wonderful co-founder, Dr. Greg. And we spend a lot of time looking at what separates the winners and how do you then operationalize that. What's really interesting, if you look at this, is structured data really matters. Where agents send discovery traffic is predominantly structured data pages. And actually, if you look at ChatGPT, the stat that jumps out there for me whenever I see this is 89% roughly of ChatGPT shopping results that they serve back go directly to product pages, not to listing pages, not to blogs, not to home pages. The humble product details page finally has its time in the sun. Those thousands of pages that are somewhat unloved and relatively generic are what the agents are looking at and deciding whether your site is better than your competitors. So you have to make sure that you're giving them the love and attention they need. How do you do that? If you've got poor product data, you are invisible. You are losing revenue. You probably don't know exactly how much because you won't be seeing it, but you will have a massive opportunity cost and lost revenue that your CFO would love you to be capturing. So how do you become the CFO's best friend? Do 3 things better than your competitors. Step 1, enrich your underlying attributes. Your taxonomy matters. Expand your taxonomy with the attributes that are important. hydrate it, make sure you have the relevant values in there. Then bring in all of the rich semantic data. We've just heard from Paul. There is so much advocacy, user-generated content, customer reviews out there about the products you sell. Get that collated, bring that in. That's what people want to hear about, because it really describes what the product is good for and how to use it, far more than generic manufacturing or dry marketing copy ever will. So do that middle stage and then get it ready for each channel. You're going to sell that moisturizer or that t-shirt through your own website. You're going to sell it on Google Shopping. There's going to be a myriad of different places it's going to end up. Each one of those should take that base layer of data and then optimize it with your brand, tone of voice, etc., for that specific channel. The way your product description appears on your PDP is fundamentally different than actually how you optimize it for Google Shopping, and so on and so on. So you need to do all of these three things really well. So if you do that, you probably get lots of messages like this in your inbox. So you're starting to think about product data and you are just bombarded with, do you want me to show you if you're showing up in AI search? This is the most commoditized space now increasingly. And, I personally, even as Ocula, get bombarded, and as retailers and brands, you will be tenfold. But actually, it's not about just understanding. It's about understanding and then actioning stuff and monitoring the change to make sure you are winning. So super simple example here to bring it to life. If you look at someone like Nailbury, a relatively small growing player within nail polish, etc. We search for nail polish in 6 different ways using our performance agent, and Nailbury is essentially invisible to the likes of ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity. And some of this is dominated by the big retailers like Boots, etc., as you'd expect. But other brands are showing up, where you can see Barry M. Brands that no longer trade under the same name, like Feel Unique, now Sephora, of course, are showing up. So there is the ability to be relevant and to be mentioned and actually take the place of some of the ghosts that are actually running off stale data. But how do you do that? Because just seeing this alone is not going to help Nailbury. What Nailbury needs to do is think about the gaps. So look at the competitors, use an agent to look at what they're not doing as well. They're not mentioning easy brush control like OPIR. They're not talking about self-leveling formulas, and very specific examples. So front load, dry time, wear, and finish into the description. Over time, that will increase relevancy to the likes of Gemini. So get actionable on what you're looking at. And then how would this work for real? Well, let's just look at a very quick example. If I go here, you've got a hair conditioning product. We need to do 3 things to it. Number 1, get the attributes right. These are the original values supplied by the manufacturer. Pretty sparse. Use an agent, get them all populated and to a great standard. Then hydrate it. Pull in the highlights. It's won an award on allure.com, expert review. It's got amazing Amazon reviews. You need to know about that. What are the use cases? It's really good for glass hair or a Kardashian-style polished blowout. Not in the generic marketing material you've received, but you need to know it is. Take that, turn it into channel-ready copy. So get a description like this one. Weave all of that in, key features, who is it perfect for, and a Q&A section. If you do that, you will become relevant to the discovery agents and you will start getting more traffic and revenue. So mindful of time, you have to keep doing this. When you get your content live, exactly like Paul said, product data is a new extension of UGC. The reviews are constantly changing, and therefore your product description needs to be constantly evolving. As new reviews come in, you go into a new season. Product data used to be stale, dry, and no one wanted to talk about it at a dinner party. It's now really important, and you need to get the flywheel going if you're going to be one of the winners versus the losers in AI search. So don't worry about just showing up. Worry about having great product data that you can get live quickly. You can use agents to optimize it at a lower inference cost than your competitors. So you've got a good cost base, and you constantly measure the traffic and visibility to make sure it has a good business case. The end. Happy to chat. If you want to know more about your SKU performance, we can do that. If you want to run a proof of concept and see the impact for real across hundreds of products, we can do that as well.
Thank you so much, Thomas. I really like what you say, that it's necessary that it becomes dynamic rather than stale, and it's amazing to see Don Draper back in this new era. With that said, let's welcome Jada up from Hilbert AI. Jada, welcome.
Hello, hello. Nice to be here. Thank you, Alex, and thank you
The
to our
floor is
friends
yours.
Ocula, and for putting this together and Shop Talk, and good to see Mariam and Paul as well. I will say I'm Jayda. I'm one of the co-founders at Hilbert. We are based in SF, Istanbul, Europe now, and growing in Australia, Latin America, and yeah, we're on a global journey together. So I will share just a few slides and then go more into a discussion. So Hilbert is an AI growth infrastructure. So we're a team of operators who come from B2C businesses, and we worked deeply in various elements of growth, which of course includes marketing and extends beyond it. And what we build is the infrastructure that requires going forward. That's not a luxury in this AI era, and we're super, super opinionated, like many of you here, that each dollar that's spent towards a customer or each communication matters a lot, and we build the baseline for that and enable teams to execute with the best decisions at the fastest speed and iteration that they can. So the problem that we're solving is that the current infrastructure in B2C, which is our world, is not ready for an agentic execution world. And we quite know this, but agents now go without like a source of truth. So of course, there's no company on earth that has incredible clean data. Business context changes. So we go in and we work with teams closely in world's leading retailers to beloved brands around building their source of truth infrastructure, and I'll share how we do that. And the second problem that is super, super fascinating and is in every single organization, just by the nature of how organizations are built, is that silos cancel each other out. So a marketer might be looking at a churn definition that's not shared by anyone, like someone else in a team, and then a CFO looks at different metrics, merchants look at different metrics, etc. So a shared North Star cannot be really reached. And even if each team hits their target, the company sometimes loses. So we know that teams are all aligned towards like making their companies more successful and grow in a sustainable way, compounding way. So what we do is help them actually speak the same language. Then we also see that lots and lots of dashboards we see in today's world, but most of it are around questions and not really answers. So marketers, growth teams spend majority of their time wrestling with data and fewer on strategy and creativity. So what we enable is like, instead of looking at dashboards, trying to figure out what happened and why and what worked, what didn't work, we bring what to do and decision-making power to folks who want to be creative, strategic, and move the needle in a way that matters for their business. How we do that? We go in and we go for the whole funnel for compounding growth. So we're called like the plumbers. Our dear investors call us like the plumbers of SF. Now we're going global. So we go and really build the layer that enables various technologies to exist in marketing organizations and others. We first start with a data schema transformation. So each company's fragmented data lives in various places, and of course local teams know this really well. But we have our canonical schema that we also work with these teams, like make sure where the business context lives, we can capture into Hilbert. We go into then data labeling and deep learning, machine learning powered labels that we have our own labels that we test in an A/B setting with our customers, and we show incrementality through these labels. So we detect early churn, we detect lifetime value, and several others, and propensity scores and others as needed. But what this enables for marketers and others in the team that use Hilbert that are not just marketers is detection. So we're not really missing any shifts after they happen. So like we launch campaigns and then we have to look what happened and then try to act on it. No, like with Hilbert, you're able to grasp segmented shifts ahead of time. So we're kind of like working with time in a different way and leverage this AI technology in a grounded, deterministic way that really enables dollar spend in a correct manner. Then we have a query agent where folks can go in and ask their hardest questions in minutes. So instead of going to our data scientists and then asking them to pull something and then coming back in a few weeks where the shift has already happened. Teams can in 5 to 7 minutes really reach the information they need. And also it's not one and done. So we can go and there's strong memory there. So companies with their own values, they can really embed them into Hilbert. So we leverage AI in a way that's super, super tailored to the setting. And of course, execution. So it's a growth team, a head of growth that deploys the right expert agents within that context to really get the growth targets completed in an actionable way. That's what we do, and I'm excited about the conversation. We work with teams ranging from Walmart to Levan Bakery to Blank Street Coffee. So we love grocery, retail, fashion. Now any B2C that we're going into new verticals. So it's an exciting world where we're building the growth foundations and looking forward to the conversation.
Excellent, Jada. Thank you so much. I love the plumbers of San Francisco. That's a good one. Let's retry to invite Mary up again. Hopefully she can jump back into it. And yeah, welcome back, Mary.
Yeah. Thank you. I had some connectivity problem. It's time to get me a new computer. So it was a good reminder today. So good to be back with you and just following up on where we were. So just very short, at Bambuser, we have been helping brands to create more engaging commerce experiences, really connecting offline and online together through video and live shopping and one-to-one video consultation. And lately, of course, we have been focusing on a new challenge because a lot of the brands that we have been working with over a lot of years, they have a new challenge, as we all do. How does your commerce content becomes discoverable and understandable in the age of AI? And before we jump into how we believe that's going to look, I have a brief overview of our commerce platform. So we have 3 suites of products. We believe that e-commerce have been static way too long. It is still very, very static. And if you go into a store, you have a person meeting you, you can ask questions, they know a lot about the product you're going to buy. So within our social commerce suite, we actually help brands to take that experience. So we do have a lot of brands that does live streaming from the actual store or from studios, and that's what we call the live shopping product. Then we have shoppable video, and going back to what a lot of people have spoken about in the panel, we love user-generated content, we love content from influencers, but what we also see is EGC that is very popular right now, and that is employee-generated content. So really taking your employees and putting them in the front of your brand is one of the best things you can actually do. A lot of the times it works greater than an influencer or a big celebrity. You sell more, you convert more, and more or less, I think the most important thing in really using your employees and creating that community is the authenticity and the trust that you're building along the way. So that is that suit. And then we have digital clienteling, which is you enable this on your website and going talking about agents, AI, and humans. I think the mix between those are going to be really important because in the age of AI and agents, I think we as humans really long for human connection as well online in a digital world. So I think that is going to be even more important. And that is what we've built for really. So if I'm on a website, I'm looking at a product and I really want to speak with someone in store, I can directly connect and then talk to a human that can help me and almost like a Zoom call. So that's what we've been doing for a long time. And a lot of everything we do is video. It can be live video or on-demand video in many different forms. And what we saw was that it is actually a conversation between someone from the brand and the end consumer, right? So everything we have done for years is based on conversational commerce. And what the large language models or whatever we want to call them, chat GPT, Perplexity, is actually about a conversation because you start with a challenge you have and then you have a conversation with them to understand, what product should I buy? So what we've done is that we launched a new product within the agentic commerce suite where we take that data in the video and we package them in a managed packet way and give it back to the brands to be able to, and they can do whatever with it. They can enrich their PDPs, as Don was talking about. They can enrich their PIMs, their product feeds, to actually be searchable on the LLMs. So if we go to the next slide, please. So I think the big questions for a lot of brands today is, what do you do when consumers stop searching, which most people do today, and they actually start asking AI, which a lot of people are doing. So I think for the last 2 decades, digital marketing has really largely been built around search. So consumers have searched, brands have optimized, and traffic floated to website. And we are entering a very, very different era. And increasingly, consumers are turning into AI. As we've talked about, interfaces like ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, and AI assistants to discover products, compare, and actually make decisions. So I think soon AI won't just help consumers to shop, it will actually shop on their behalf. And that really fundamentally changes how brand gets discovered. And it creates a totally new challenge for marketeers. I think it's really, really important that your content actually becomes understandable by AI. And at Bambuser, we've always been a video first company and we lead with that. But how do you take all that video, all that user generated, all that great content and data that you have and structure that to be able to feed that into these platforms to be searchable and understandable? And that is what we built and launched. And I'm really excited to discuss how AI tools are reshaping marketing, not just from an efficiency perspective, but also from the perspective of discovery, trust, and the future of commerce itself. So thank you for having me.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mary. Guys, we have about 10, 13 minutes left. I'm going to give you the secret now to how we can make these questions as beneficial as possible. It's called the anti-politician setup. So whenever you get a question, you give me the crispiest, the shortest, the most concrete answer, and very short. So since you were the last one, Mary, let's give you the jump on the first question. Since obviously a lot of retailers and brands are moving budgets now and trying to allocate where should we put our money? Should it be into, traditional SEO, or should it be to performance? How do you recommend them to allocate their budgets? And the brands and retailers that you're discussing with, I mean, what percentage do you see that they're moving towards AI discoverability versus, the traditional way of doing it?
I think, as I'm also very heavily involved with a lot of our customers, I think this is the most hottest topic right now in any e-commerce or marketing teams around the world. Actually, this is really a global question. And I think, we see around, I don't know the latest numbers. I think the latest I checked, 90% of search is still SEO, very based on like Google heavy, investment. So, and we're seeing 10% moving. So I think it's between 10 and 20% of traffic moving into the LLMs. And I would actually take that and reverse that type of budget. So I would take around 10 to 20% of my marketing budget and really have a quite, how do I say, test and learn. Really, I wouldn't go like, 90-10 and just go all LLMs. And I think a good geo discovery is actually based on a good SEO. So it goes a bit hand in hand. And I think a lot of my things is not either or, it's both. You can't drop what you're doing, but you need to be curious and you need to be on the right side of change. So I would say between 10 and 20%.
I like that. Good one. Thank you. Jada, when it comes to doing this kind of deployment or, turning these actionable insights into business intelligence, my question is, how do you deploy this without, creating this total infrastructure overhaul or disaster and getting obviously the CFO on board? What's the secret that you've gained now through your implementations?
The very direct answer is CFOs love this because they want to understand what marketers spend money on and the returns, and marketers also love being able to prove and show with data our impact. So it's actually a very synergistic relationship once people start talking about the same definitions. So company data lives all over an organization, and So it's more than an overhaul. We're preparing it for the AI agentic world with that deterministic. I also saw a question. So for example, we don't let LLMs do any calculation, etc. We like manage the cost, so CFOs can actually spend money on an AI tool without worrying the cost will go to places and give the outcomes that are not strong. And CFOs are often on board because with this kind of intelligence, you can resurface like reactivation opportunities, like identify early churn. So keep and invest in your best customers while acquiring customers that are going to retain. So this kind of compounding sustainable growth when finance and marketing are on the same page is actually making what companies more successful and enduring. That's why we're in this business.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Paul, if we look into this from the AI perspective, obviously, and we see that the LLMs are crawling the web more to recommend brands, what would you say is a community of real brand advocates? What would you say is the biggest advantage for them compared to a massive, traditional paid ad spend? What is the moat here?
Yeah, I don't think anyone's ever actually bought anything because of an ad. That might have been the thing that nudged you to make the purchase. Like, oh yeah, no, I remember I got to buy that now. Yeah, good reminder, thanks. It's about sort of like capturing the demand, but the creation of the demand happens way before that, and it almost always happens because of a real human, a friend, a family member saying you recommended, or someone on the internet saying this is the thing I use all the time, and you believe that they are a real user of that product. They're not just being paid to say that. And so ultimately, if you've got all these people, and if you're a brand, you do, right? You don't exist unless you've got this basis of loyal fans and advocates in there. Otherwise, you literally cannot exist. And you then activate them to then start talking to you a little bit more. If every single one of them were to have one more conversation or two more conversations or do one post on social media or refer one person, you will double the size of your business. And so it's a really easy yet very hard way of growing a business. It's like those two things kind of combine at the same time for it, but it is the reason why most businesses build. And if you haven't got that, you don't have a business.
Very good. Very good. Thomas, obviously a lot of brands have in the tens of thousands of SKUs, if not even more. What is the actual revenue risk that you see when you discuss with brands and the process for them to actually automate that transition into machine-ready data? Because it's a shift that needs to be happening.
Totally right. Non-politician's answer. And you risk becoming completely irrelevant online and invisible. It came up on the slides. It's not a nice to have. I think with so many innovations and so much of AI to this point, if you don't do anything, you just maintain status quo, which is not always a bad thing if you have a decent P&L. This is different. If you don't do anything, you're going to go backwards because the market is surging ahead in a different direction of discovery. And therefore, you don't have that market share in 1, 2, 3 years. So it's the reason that the CFOs are actually finally asking the question about, are we relevant in agentic commerce? They were never asking about how are we doing on SEO. Like SEO was really important and it actually drove a lot of money, but the CFO didn't really talk about it or want to get into the detail. Suddenly agentic commerce is a C-suite discussion. So you have to do it. If you don't do it, you will become irrelevant if you don't have a strategy and a plan. How you operationalize, you have to deploy your own AI. There's no army of people that you can bring in that a P&L would support to enhance product information, generate all the content that you need. So you need your own best-in-class AI. How do you then measure that that's working? Well, two things. You measure how much it costs versus, so for example, if you're in a build versus buy scenario, how much could you build it for? What's your inference cost? What's your ongoing team management versus what you're paying a provider for? And then the flip side of that coin is how much additional is it making us? So you just set up holdout groups, you measure track changes in LLM visibility, and you can put dollar values against all of that really easily. So suddenly, quarterly review with the CFO, you're saying, well, look, this is why we've gone with this provider, or this is why we built in-house, this is the cost profile, and this is the kind of ROI we're getting when we look at test versus control. And it will be really compelling. Like we haven't worked with a single client who doesn't generally see like 7 to 12% traffic uplift, and that's the equivalent revenue. because the traffic, there's no drop in conversion. Like, what retailer or brand wouldn't benefit from 7 to 12% uptick? Yeah,
Definitely.
that's.
Thank you very much. I have two more questions, and we're going to proceed with them pretty rapidly. But before that, just a reminder for everyone, use the poll to get the chance to ask your questions as well directly to the different companies. So reach out, press the company that you want to hear more from, and then they are, of course, able to give you all the time you need for the questions we're not able to discuss today. So guys, two more questions. Now it's even a shorter answer. So for each question, give me 1 or 2 sentences, because I'm very certain that everyone in the audience want to get your perspective on them. So first one about the capital allocation. We know now that retailers in this era with the AI playbook, they need the data layer that Jade is talking about. They need the data enrichment that Thomas was mentioning. They need the GEO that Mary's talking about, and obviously also the community building that Paul mentioned. So to you, all 4 of you, if legacy marketing would be cutting one item, which would that be? And where's the money being wasted today? You get 2 sentences each. Let's start with you, Thomas.
I will say, first of all, everyone else has actually got a broader remit and better qualified. But despite that, I'm going to answer and say, stop trying to build stuff because you can. Like, your influence costs will not be optimized, and you will spend a fortune, and then you will go to an AI specialist.
Paul?
Most of your advertising. If you were to reinvest that massive budget in building and nurturing relationships with your customers, with the people, then just earning the right for them to talk about you, you will grow far faster than you would if you were to spend that money on ads.
Mary?
I would actually kill content created for volume rather than value. So I would really focus on value and cut the volume. That's where I would cut.
Jada?
Spray and pray methods. So if we're just targeting, and instead of having like a measurement system that keeps you honest.
Excellent. The final question is actually, I call it the board room closing. And this is basically, so if you're sitting with a retailer and brand, and that C-level person is going into the board, and you have to pitch them the last thing. So basically, if they don't invest in X by the end of the year, they risk of losing Y, okay? So my last question to you and for our audience as well is, what is that X and Y for your business? What is it that you leave for that C-level person? And to make it even more hard, you get 1 sentence.
I can go.
Please.
I would say let humans create the meaning and let the machines create the scale.
Good. Thomas?
Invest in product data or become irrelevant.
Paul?
Invest in creating remarkable experiences for your customers so that they remark upon it to as many people as possible.
And for me, investing in real-time decisions by the end of 2026. Otherwise, we'll lose our best customers without seeing it coming.
It's a very good closing statement from all of you. We have a bunch of questions. I don't even know where to start. I think, as mentioned, I think the easiest way for you in the audience to get the best answers is to fill in the contact option in the poll. And then we are able to, depending on who the question is for, or if it's for several, get you some time to speak with the people from each organization. A lot of questions, a lot of insights, and I do believe that for a lot of you here in the audience today, being a brand or a retailer, these are questions that you are discussing. These are questions that you have to also proceed on and prioritizing correctly the next few months. So with that said, I think there's a lot more to discuss here. I would like to thank every one of you that listened and joined us today. And also, of course, our amazing panelists, Mary, Thomas, Paul, Jada, all of you guys, for basically doing the work and growing in the way you are globally. And I'm very certain this is not the last time we're going to hear from you. Rather than I look forward to seeing you at all these different platforms where we see where the future of retail is actually heading. So with that said, thank you so much for everyone that joined, and thank you for my amazing panelists.
Thanks,
Everyone.
Alex.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks
Thank
all.
you so much, Alex.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.